Bernard Ashford walked into his Greenwich mansion and saw his fiancée's hand raised, trembling inches from his 8-year-old daughter's face. His maid blocked the strike. His son hid behind his sister, shaking. He didn't stop her, because Karen didn't know the man in work boots watching from the hallway was the billionaire who owned everything she touched. Bernard had gone undercover as his own gardener to catch what he suspected but couldn't prove. What he found was worse than abuse. Karen had filed a petition in New Haven County, declaring him mentally unfit, planning to take his children, his fortune, everything. Hidden inside his daughter's confiscated sketchbook was a letter from his dead wife, a letter Karen had read and ignored. This isn't just about revenge. It's about a father who disappeared into his own home to save his family. If you want to see how he destroys her in front of everyone she knows, stay until the end and subscribe, because what happens next will leave you speechless. The slap never landed. Caitlin's hand shot up faster, catching Karen's wrist mid-swing, inches from Lily's face. The 8-year-old stood frozen against the marble staircase, railing in Bernard Ashford's Greenwich estate. Her brother Alvin pressed behind her like a shadow, trying to disappear. Bernard watched from behind the potted ficus near the service hallway. Dirt still caked his fingernails. Stubble scratched his jaw where a beard used to sit. The worn Carhartt jacket smelled like mulch and sweat. Nobody in this house knew Ben the gardener was actually the man who owned every inch of it. Karen's voice cut through the foyer like glass breaking. "Move your hand, Caitlin. Last warning." The maid didn't flinch. Her uniform, plain navy cotton, frayed at the collar, pulled tight across her shoulders as she angled herself between Karen and the children. Her knuckles whitened around Karen's wrist. Bernard's chest caved. His fiancée, the woman he'd proposed to 6 months ago at a charity gala in Stamford. The woman who smiled for photographers at fundraisers in Norwalk and Darien. That woman had her hand raised to strike his daughter. Lily's lip trembled. Alvin's fingers dug into the hem of her sweater. Karen lowered her arm slowly, deliberately. Then she smiled a calculated curve that made Bernard's stomach drop. "If you tell your father about this," she whispered, leaning close enough that her breath stirred Lily's hair, "I'll make sure you never see that sketchbook again." Lily's face crumpled. "What sketchbook?" Karen's heels clicked toward the front entrance. "I'm meeting the planning committee in Norwalk. Don't let those kids out of your sight." The door slammed behind her. Caitlin exhaled, shaky, ragged. She crouched immediately, wiping a tear from Alvin's cheek with her thumb. "It's okay now. She's gone." Bernard gripped the broom handle until his knuckles ached. Caitlin looked more like their mother than Karen ever had. The twins clung to her arms like she was the only safe harbor left in the world. Before he could move, Lily tugged Caitlin's sleeve. Her voice broke on every syllable. She took it again. Caitlin's jaw tightened. "Then we'll find it, sweetheart. I promise." "Find what?" Bernard stepped forward, keeping his voice rough and unfamiliar. "What'd she take?" Caitlin hesitated, scanning his face. Then her shoulders sagged. Lily draws portraits of her mother. Karen hates seeing them. The air turned to stone. His late wife. Their mother. Karen was erasing her memory. The house security chime beeped. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Heavy ones. Not Karen's heels. Bernard pressed his spine against the wall, barely breathing. The footsteps faded toward the kitchen. Not a threat. Just the housekeeper from Fairfield County delivering groceries. But the spike of adrenaline hadn't settled. His pulse hammered against his ribs like fists against glass. Caitlin was still crouched beside the twins, murmuring something Bernard couldn't hear. Alvin had stopped shaking. Lily wiped her nose on her sleeve. Their bodies leaned into Caitlin like trees bending toward sunlight. Bernard had hired her 8 months ago. A referral from his attorney's office in Bridgeport. Quiet, efficient, good references. He'd barely spoken to her beyond pleasantries, too consumed by board meetings in Manhattan, factory tours in Trenton, contract negotiations that bled into weekends. He hadn't noticed the way his children gravitated toward her. He hadn't noticed Karen at all. Caitlin stood, smoothing Lily's hair. "Let's get you both some lunch, okay?" "She said we couldn't eat until dinner," Alvin whispered. Bernard's jaw locked. Caitlin's face hardened for half a second, then softened again, the mask slipping back into place. "Well, she's not here, so we're making grilled cheese." The twins followed her toward the kitchen, their steps lighter now, trusting. Bernard watched the contrast carve itself into his vision. Caitlin, in her plain uniform, sleeves rolled to her elbows, moving through the house like she belonged. Karen, in tailored cream wool and Cartier bracelets, treating his home like a stage set. His late wife, Eliza, used to make grilled cheese on Sunday mornings. She'd hum old Fleetwood Mac songs while flipping bread in the skillet, flour dusting her wrists. The twins would sit on the counter and steal cheese slices when she wasn't looking. She'd died 3 years ago. Aneurysm, no warning. One moment laughing at a fundraiser in New Haven, the next collapsing in the parking lot while Bernard fumbled for his phone. He thought he'd never recover. Then Karen appeared, polished, charming, patient with the children during those first few months. She'd seemed like a lifeline, a second chance. He'd proposed too fast, ignored the small cruelties that surfaced once the ring was on her finger. He'd been a fool. Bernard moved toward the kitchen, broom still in hand, playing the role. Caitlin glanced at him briefly while buttering bread. "You're the new gardener?" "Started this morning," he said, keeping his voice flat. "Ben," she nodded. "Caitlin. And these two are Lily and Alvin." Lily looked up from the counter. Her eyes, Eliza's eyes, sharp and curious, studied him for a moment, before returning to the sandwich Caitlin was assembling. Bernard's throat tightened. Caitlin set the plates down gently. The twins ate in silence, methodical and careful, like they were afraid the food might vanish. Bernard had seen that look before on the faces of underfed kids in documentaries about neglect. His own children. Caitlin caught him staring. She tilted her head toward the hallway, a silent request. Bernard followed her out of earshot. "How long has this been happening?" he asked quietly. Caitlin's expression flickered. Exhaustion, shame, fear. "A while." "Why didn't you tell him?" Her laugh was bitter and brittle. "Tell Bernard Ashford his fiancée is a monster? You think he'd believe the maid over her?" Bernard felt the words land like stones. Before he could respond, the sound of tires crunching gravel cut through the silence. Karen's car, back early. Caitlin's face drained of color. She wasn't supposed to be home for hours. Karen's heels stabbed the marble like punctuation marks. She swept through the foyer without acknowledging anyone, phone pressed to her ear, voice dripping with false warmth. "Yes, Diane, the venue in Westport is perfect. We'll finalize everything by Friday." Caitlin's hand found Lily's shoulder, steadying her. Bernard remained near the kitchen archway, head down, gripping the broom. Just another hired hand. Invisible. Karen ended the call and turned. Her gaze landed on the twins at the counter, half-eaten sandwiches on their plates. Her smile sharpened. "I don't remember approving lunch." "They were hungry," Caitlin said quietly. "They're always hungry." Karen's tone flattened into something cold and surgical. "Teaches them discipline." She glanced at Bernard. "Who's this?" "New gardener," Caitlin answered. "Started today." Karen's eyes swept over him, disdain and dismissal in one motion. "Make sure the hydrangeas near the east gate are trimmed by tomorrow. They look pathetic." She turned back to Caitlin. "Take the children upstairs. Now." Caitlin nodded, ushering Lily and Alvin toward the staircase. Bernard watched them disappear down the hall, then slipped out through the service door, circling toward the second-floor wing from outside. He needed to see what Karen had taken. The twins' bedroom window faced the garden. Bernard crouched beneath the hedges, close enough to hear movement inside. Caitlin's voice drifted through the glass. "Let's check under the bed again." Bernard edged closer. Through the gap in the curtains, he saw Caitlin kneel on the carpet, pulling out storage bins. Lily sat on the edge of the mattress, Alvin beside her, both watching with hollow eyes. The room told its own story. Torn paper edges scattered near the trash bin. Crayons snapped in half, scattered across the desk. A drawer hung open, its contents rifled through and abandoned. Someone had searched this space with anger, not care. Caitlin checked behind the bookshelf. Nothing. She opened the closet, moving shoes aside, fingers trailing along the baseboards. She hid it somewhere new. Bernard's chest tightened. What kind of person steals from children? Lily's voice cracked. Why does she hate them so much? Caitlin sat beside her, pulling both twins close. She doesn't understand what they mean to you. They're all I have left of Mom. Bernard felt the ground tilt beneath him. The drawings. Portraits of Eliza. Lily had been sketching her mother's face from memory, holding on to fragments of a woman who died when she was 5, and Karen had been systematically erasing them. Not just cruel, calculated, deliberate erasure. His vision blurred. Rage burned through his veins like acid. He wanted to tear the door off its hinges, throw Karen out onto the driveway in front of her Westport socialites, let the world see what she really was. But he couldn't. Not yet. If he revealed himself now, Karen would twist the narrative, claim shock, manipulate her network, bury him in legal motions before he could prove anything. He needed evidence. He needed time. If you want to see how far Karen's cruelty really goes, and whether Bernard can stop her before it's too late, you need to stay until the end. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Bernard pulled out his phone, still crouched in the hedges, and opened the security app. He'd installed hidden cameras throughout the house 2 weeks ago, motion-activated, cloud-uploaded, encrypted. He scrolled through the footage from earlier that morning. There. Karen entering the twins' room at 7:43 a.m., 30 minutes before Bernard arrived home. She moved like a predator, fast, efficient, opened the closet, pulled something from behind a stack of blankets. A leather-bound sketchbook. She flipped through it, her face twisting with disgust. Then she walked out, tucking it under her arm. Bernard's breath caught. Where did she take it? The footage continued. Karen descended to the basement, the wine cellar. She opened a cabinet near the back wall, shoved the sketchbook inside behind rows of Bordeaux bottles, and locked it. Bernard had what he needed. But before he could move, the security chime beeped again. Another car pulling into the driveway. Not Karen's sedan. A black SUV with tinted windows and Connecticut plates. Bernard froze in the hedges, phone still clutched in his dirt-stained hand. The black SUV idled in the driveway, engine ticking as it cooled. Connecticut plates, no company logo, tinted windows that reflected the afternoon sun like mirrors. This wasn't a delivery. This wasn't staff. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out tall, mid-50s, grey suit tailored too perfectly for a casual visit. His shoes were Italian leather, polished to a shine that caught light even from 30 feet away. He moved with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. Bernard recognized him immediately. Jonathan Price, Karen's financial advisor. Based out of Stamford, managed her personal accounts, handled her trust fund distributions. Bernard had met him twice, once at a charity auction in Greenwich, once at Karen's insistence during a dinner in New Haven, where Jonathan spent 2 hours explaining investment strategies Bernard already understood. But why was he here, now, unannounced? Jonathan walked toward the front entrance, briefcase in hand. He didn't knock. The door opened before he reached it, Karen standing in the threshold, arms crossed, expression unreadable. They spoke in low tones. Bernard couldn't hear the words, but he could read the body language. Karen's shoulders were rigid. Jonathan's gestures were sharp, insistent. This wasn't a friendly visit. After 30 seconds, Karen stepped aside. Jonathan entered. Bernard's instincts screamed. He circled the house quickly, staying low, moving through the side garden toward the service entrance. Inside, he could hear voices drifting from the second floor. Caitlin's, the twins. They were still in the bedroom. He needed to get closer to Karen and Jonathan without being seen. The foyer was empty. Bernard slipped through the kitchen, past the pantry, and into the hallway that connected to the library. From there, he could hear everything. Karen's voice cut through the silence. "You weren't supposed to come here. You weren't answering my calls." Jonathan's tone was clipped, professional, but threaded with irritation. "We need to talk about the timeline. Not here, not now. Yes, here. Yes, now." Jonathan's footsteps moved toward the staircase. "Are the children upstairs?" Bernard's pulse spiked. Why would Jonathan care where the twins were? Karen hesitated. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Everything." Jonathan's voice dropped lower, forcing Bernard to strain to hear. "If we're moving forward with this, I need to know they won't be a problem." Bernard's blood turned to ice. "Moving forward with what?" Karen exhaled sharply. "They're not a problem. They're children. Children who inherit half of Bernard's estate if something happens to him." Jonathan's words landed like hammer strikes. "Children who complicate the plan." Bernard's knees nearly buckled. "The plan?" "What plan?" Footsteps echoed from the second floor. Heavy, deliberate. Jonathan was heading upstairs. Bernard bolted. He took the back staircase 2 steps at a time, moving faster than stealth allowed, desperation overriding caution. He had to reach the twins before Jonathan did. He rounded the corner just as Jonathan appeared at the end of the hallway. The man paused outside the twins' bedroom door, hand raised to knock. Caitlin opened it first. Her face went pale. "Can I help you?" Jonathan's expression didn't shift. Cold, assessing. "I'm looking for Lily and Alvin." "They're resting," Caitlin said, positioning herself in the doorway, blocking his view inside. "Who are you?" "A family friend." Jonathan's gaze flicked past her, scanning the room. "I need to speak with them." "About what?" Jonathan's smile didn't reach his eyes. "That's between me and the children." Caitlin's hand tightened on the doorframe. "I don't think so." The air between them crackled. Bernard watched from the adjacent hallway, every muscle coiled. If Jonathan pushed past Caitlin, if he touched her, if he threatened the twins, Bernard would drop the disguise and end this now. But Jonathan simply reached into his coat. Bernard's hand shot to the broom handle leaning against the wall, gripping it like a weapon. Jonathan pulled out a manila folder, thick, sealed with red tape. He held it up, letting Caitlin see it. "This," he said quietly, "was supposed to stay between Karen and me." Caitlin's breathing quickened. "What is it?" Jonathan dropped the folder onto the hallway table. It landed with a heavy thud that echoed through the silence. "Karen doesn't want the children here after the wedding." Caitlin's gasp was sharp, audible. Bernard's vision tunneled. Jonathan continued, voice flat and merciless. "She's already filed the petition in New Haven County, declaring Bernard mentally unfit to raise them. Once it's approved, she gains sole control of his estate. The twins will be placed elsewhere." The floor dropped out from under Bernard's feet. Not just abuse, not just erasure. Karen was planning to take everything, his children, his fortune, his life, and she'd been building the case for months. Caitlin stared at the folder like it was a live grenade. "That's illegal," she whispered. "He's not unfit. He's absent." Jonathan's interruption was surgical. "Traveling constantly. Manhattan, Newark, Boston, Hartford." The petition documents 53 days in the past 4 months where Bernard Ashford was unreachable by his own children. He tapped the folder. Karen has emails, voicemails, testimony from household staff. A psychologist's evaluation citing emotional neglect. Bernard's lungs stopped working. 53 days. He'd been building the Connecticut expansion, negotiating factory deals in Bridgeport, meeting investors in Providence. every trip necessary, every absence justified. Karen had been documenting it all, twisting it, weaponizing it. Caitlin's voice shook. Those children adore their father. Their father, Jonathan said coldly, doesn't know what Karen does to them when he's gone. And once the court sees the pattern, once they hear about his inability to maintain stable supervision, the judge will have no choice. Bernard pressed his back against the wall, hidden just around the corner. His heart slammed against his ribs so hard he thought it might crack bone. This wasn't spontaneous cruelty. This was a calculated legal siege. Karen had been building her case since before the engagement. Maybe since the first time she smiled at him across that fundraiser in Stamford. Maybe longer. Jonathan picked up the folder. The hearing is scheduled for 3 weeks from today. New Haven County Superior Court. Judge Morrison presiding. He handed it to Caitlin. Karen wanted you to know because she's terminating your employment, effective immediately after the wedding. Caitlin's face drained of color. Why are you telling me this? Jonathan's expression flickered something almost human breaking through the cold professionalism. Because I have a daughter. His voice dropped. And if someone did this to her, I'd want someone to warn me. He turned and walked toward the staircase. Caitlin called after him. Why would you help Karen if you think this is wrong? Jonathan paused at the top of the stairs. I don't help Karen. I manage her money. There's a difference. He descended without looking back. The front door closed 30 seconds later. The SUV engine growled to life. Gravel crunched under tires as Jonathan drove away. Caitlin stood frozen in the hallway, folder clutched against her chest. Her hands trembled. Behind her, through the cracked bedroom door, Bernard could see Lily and Alvin huddled together on the bed, faces pale, eyes wide. They'd heard everything. Caitlin stepped into the room, kneeling in front of them. Listen to me. Your father loves you. He would never— He's never here, Lily whispered. The words punched through Bernard like a blade. Alvin's voice was barely audible. Maybe she's right. Maybe we're too much trouble. Bernard couldn't breathe. His children, his own children, believed Karen's lies because he'd given her the ammunition. Every business trip, every late night, every missed dinner. He'd handed her the weapon, and she'd aimed it straight at his family. Caitlin pulled both twins into a fierce hug. You are not trouble. You are loved. And I promise you, her voice cracked, I promise someone will stop her. Bernard backed away from the doorway, moving on instinct, descending the rear staircase, slipping out through the service entrance into the garden. His disguise felt like it was suffocating him. He ripped off the work gloves, wiped sweat from his face with shaking hands. 3 weeks. Karen had a hearing in 3 weeks. She had documentation, testimony, a psychologist's report. She had a plan that stretched months into the past and was about to destroy his future. And she had no idea he knew. Bernard pulled out his phone. The hidden camera footage was still uploading to the cloud. Hours of recordings, Karen's threats, her cruelty toward the twins, the erasure of Eliza's memory, Jonathan's visit. The folder. But would it be enough? A shadow moved across the garden path. Bernard looked up. Karen stood 15 feet away, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. She was staring directly at him. You're still here, she said slowly. Most gardeners leave by 3. Bernard kept his head down, voice rough. Overtime. Trimming the east gate hydrangeas like you asked. Karen took a step closer. Her gaze swept over him, assessing, suspicious. Have we met before? Bernard's pulse hammered. No, ma'am. She tilted her head. You look familiar. The air between them turned to glass. One wrong word, one slip, one moment of recognition, and everything would collapse. Karen's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, distracted. Finish up and leave. I don't want anyone lingering after dark. She turned and walked back toward the house. Bernard exhaled, slowly, silently. But as Karen reached the doorway, she paused. looked back over her shoulder, and smiled. Bernard waited until Karen's silhouette disappeared through the French doors before he moved. His legs felt like concrete. His chest burned with rage so pure it tasted metallic. 3 weeks. He had 3 weeks to dismantle a conspiracy that had been months in the making. He crossed the lawn toward the detached garage where the groundskeeper's equipment was stored. The small office in the back corner had a desk, a filing cabinet, and a single dusty window overlooking the property. Nobody used it anymore. Perfect. Bernard locked the door behind him and pulled out his laptop from the duffel bag he'd stashed that morning. His hands shook as he logged into the encrypted cloud server where the hidden camera footage uploaded automatically. The recordings were all there, organized by date and location: living room, kitchen, hallway, twins' bedroom, foyer. He clicked the file from this morning. Karen's voice came through crystal clear. "Put that down, Lily. You don't deserve anything your father buys." Then Caitlin stepping between them, the raised hand, the threat about the sketchbook. Bernard's jaw clenched. He scrolled through earlier footage. Karen mocking Alvin's stutter during breakfast 2 days ago in Darien. Karen forcing Lily to stand in the corner for an hour last week in Fairfield County after she asked for her mother's necklace. Karen screaming at Caitlin in the pantry, calling her worthless, threatening termination if she interfered again. Hours of evidence. Undeniable. Damning. But was it enough? Bernard opened a separate folder on his desktop, the one containing Karen's financial records. He'd gained access 3 months ago, when she asked him to review her portfolio. She'd wanted advice on a property investment in Norwalk. He'd logged into her accounts with her permission. He hadn't logged out. The transactions painted a clear picture: monthly payments to a law firm in Hartford, retainer fees to a private investigator based in New Haven, a $20,000 payment to Dr. Raymond Coulter, a child psychologist in Stamford who'd apparently provided the evaluation Jonathan mentioned. Bernard pulled up Dr. Coulter's credentials. Licensed, reputable, no obvious red flags, which meant Karen had paid him to fabricate findings. Or worse, she'd manipulated the evaluation legitimately by controlling access to the twins, coaching them, framing Bernard's absences in the worst possible light. Either way, the psychologist's report would carry weight in court. Bernard needed more than recordings. He needed testimony, witnesses. Documentation that proved Karen's intent wasn't protection, it was acquisition. His phone buzzed. A text from his attorney in Bridgeport, the one who'd helped draft his will after Eliza died. "Bernard," tried calling. "Need to discuss urgent matter. Estate planning. Karen requested access to trust documents. Call me." Bernard's blood turned to ice. Karen was already moving pieces into position. Accessing trust documents meant she was preparing to challenge the inheritance structure. If she gained control before the hearing, she could freeze assets, redirect funds, lock Bernard out of his own financial empire. He typed a response. "Don't give her anything. I'll explain later." Another buzz, this time from an unknown number. The message was brief. "You weren't supposed to be there today." Bernard stared at the screen. Who sent this? He checked the area code. Connecticut. Stamford area. Jonathan. Before Bernard could respond, another message appeared. "She knows something's wrong. Be careful." The office door handle rattled. Bernard's heart stopped. A knock, soft, hesitant. "Ben?" Caitlin's voice filtered through the wood. "Are you in there?" Bernard shoved the laptop into the bag, wiped his face, steadied his breathing. He opened the door. Caitlin stood on the threshold, folder still clutched against her chest. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying. "I need to show you something," she whispered. She held out the folder. Bernard took it carefully. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Lily and Alvin, bruises on Alvin's arm, a handprint on Lily's shoulder, torn drawings scattered across the floor. Caitlin had been documenting everything too. "I didn't know what to do with them," she said quietly. "I didn't think anyone would believe me." Bernard looked up at her. "I believe you." Her expression crumpled with relief. Then footsteps echoed from the driveway. Karen's voice cut through the evening air. "Caitlin, where are you?" Caitlin's face went pale. Caitlin shoved the folder into Bernard's hands and ran. He watched her sprint across the lawn toward the main house, smoothing her uniform, wiping her face, playing the role, surviving. Bernard tucked the folder under his arm and followed at a distance, staying in the shadows near the hedgerow. Voices drifted from the open patio doors. Laughter, the clink of crystal glasses. Karen was entertaining. He crept closer, positioning himself behind the stone planter that bordered the outdoor seating area. Through the gaps in the decorative ironwork, he could see everything. 6 women sat around the patio table in Westport designer clothing and Cartier watches. Karen's inner circle. The planning committee for her wedding. They sipped champagne and picked at catered appetizers while the sun dipped below the tree line. Lily stood beside the table holding a tray of glasses. Her hands trembled. Alvin lingered near the doorway, eyes locked on the floor. Karen's voice rang out, sweet and poisonous. "Lily, darling, offer Mrs. Whitmore a drink." Lily stepped forward carefully. The woman, blonde, 50s, pearls, took a glass without looking at her. "Such a quiet child," Mrs. Whitmore said. "Is she always this timid?" Karen laughed. It was a practiced sound, light and dismissive. "She's still adjusting. Poor thing lost her mother so young. Bernard spoils them to compensate, but it's made them fragile." Bernard's fists clenched. Another woman leaned forward. "Where is Bernard anyway? I haven't seen him in weeks." "Working," Karen said smoothly. "Always working. Newark today, Boston tomorrow. He's very dedicated to his business." She paused, letting the silence hang. Perhaps too dedicated. The implication landed softly, like poison in tea. Lily moved to refill another glass. Her foot caught the edge of the patio stone. She stumbled. The tray tilted. Champagne splashed across the table. The women gasped. Karen's smile vanished. "Lily!" Karen's voice cracked like a whip. She stood abruptly, chair scraping stone. "What is wrong with you?" "I'm sorry." Lily's voice broke. "Sorry isn't good enough." Karen grabbed the tray from Lily's hands and thrust it at Caitlin, who'd appeared in the doorway. "Take her inside, now." Caitlin moved immediately, wrapping an arm around Lily's shoulders, guiding her toward the house. Lily was shaking so hard Bernard could see it from 30 feet away. Alvin followed them, head down, shoulders hunched. Karen turned back to her guests, composing herself instantly. "I apologize. The children are difficult lately. They need structure," one woman said sympathetically. "Exactly." Karen sat down, smoothing her dress. "Which is why I've been working with a child psychologist in Stamford, Dr. Coulter. Wonderful man. He's helping me understand their behavioral issues." Bernard's vision tunneled. She was setting the stage. Right here, right now. Painting the twins as troubled, Bernard as absent, herself as the responsible caretaker trying to manage chaos. One of the women touched Karen's hand. "You're doing such a good job. Bernard is lucky to have you." Karen smiled, modest, humble, perfect. "I just want what's best for them," she said softly, "even if it's hard." Bernard pulled out his phone, angling it through the ironwork. He recorded every word, every gesture, every calculated performance. Then Karen said something that made his blood freeze. "Actually, I wanted to share something with all of you." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small leather-bound book, Lily's sketchbook. Karen opened it slowly, flipping through pages. "Look at these drawings. Obsessive, wouldn't you say? The same face over and over. Their dead mother, Dr. Coulter says it's unhealthy attachment, preventing them from moving forward." She closed the book. "I've decided to put it away. For their own good." The women nodded sympathetically. Bernard's entire body shook with rage. Then he heard it. A soft sob from the upstairs window. Lily was watching. Bernard moved before he could think. He crossed the lawn in 4 strides, entered through the service door, and took the back staircase 2 steps at a time. His boots thudded against wood. The disguise felt like paper, now thin, useless, ready to tear. Lily's sobs echoed from the hallway. He reached the 2nd floor just as Caitlin emerged from the twins' bedroom, pulling the door closed behind her. Her face was pale, eyes red. "She won't stop crying," Caitlin whispered. Bernard started toward the door. Caitlin grabbed his arm. "Don't. If Karen comes up and sees you—" Footsteps hammered up the main staircase. Karen. Caitlin's grip tightened. "Hide. Now." Bernard ducked into the linen closet across the hall, leaving the door cracked. Through the gap, he watched Karen appear at the top of the stairs, heels striking marble like gunshots. "Where is she?" Karen demanded. "In her room," Caitlin said quietly. "She's upset. She's embarrassed me." Karen pushed past her, reaching for the door handle. Caitlin stepped between her and the door. "She's 8 years old. She made a mistake." Karen's expression went cold. "Move. Please. Just let her calm down." "I said move." Karen shoved Caitlin aside hard enough that she stumbled into the wall. Then Karen yanked the bedroom door open with such force it swung inward violently. Lily had been standing right behind it. The edge caught her shoulder. She yelped, falling backward onto the carpet. Alvin screamed. Bernard's hand was on the closet door before his brain caught up. Every instinct in his body screamed to break cover, to end this, to protect his children the way he should have been protecting them all along. But if he revealed himself now here, with Karen's guests still downstairs, with no witnesses who'd believe him, she'd twist the narrative. She'd call him unstable, violent. She'd use this moment to prove the petition's claims. He forced himself to stay hidden. His nails bit into his palms until they drew blood. Caitlin was already on the floor, pulling Lily into her arms. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're okay." "She pushed the door into her," Alvin shouted, tears streaming down his face. "You hurt her." Karen stared down at them, breathing hard. For 3 seconds, Bernard thought he saw something flicker across her face. Regret, shock, something human. Then it vanished. "She shouldn't have been standing there," Karen said flatly. She turned to Caitlin. "You're fired. Pack your things and leave by morning." Caitlin's face went white. "You can't." "I just did." Karen's voice was ice. "And if you try to contact Bernard, if you say one word about what happened here, I'll make sure you never work in this state again. I have friends in Fairfield County, New Haven, Hartford. They'll bury you. If you think this is as bad as it gets, you're wrong. What Bernard finds next will shatter everything. Subscribe now, because if you miss the next part, you'll regret it." Caitlin looked at the twins, then back at Karen. Her jaw trembled. "Fine." Karen walked out without another word. The moment her footsteps faded, Bernard pushed out of the closet. Caitlin's head snapped up. "Ben, is she hurt?" Bernard knelt beside Lily, hands hovering over her shoulder. His voice cracked. "Let me see." Lily looked up at him with Eliza's eyes, confused, afraid, but trusting. Caitlin gently moved Lily's sleeve. "Red mark, no blood. It would bruise, but nothing worse." "She'll be okay," Caitlin whispered. Bernard's throat closed. He wanted to tell Lily everything. Wanted to hold her and promise it would never happen again. Wanted to rip off the disguise and drag Karen out of his house by her hair. Instead, he stood. "I'll get ice." He left the room on shaking legs, descended the stairs, moved through the kitchen in a daze. His hands fumbled with the freezer door. Then he saw it. The wine cellar entrance. The door Karen had locked after hiding the sketchbook. It was open, and something was tucked inside the sketchbook's pages. An envelope, sealed. In handwriting he recognized instantly. Eliza's. Bernard's hands shook as he pulled the envelope from between the sketchbook's pages. The paper was aged, slightly yellowed at the edges. His name was written across the front in Eliza's careful script, the way she used to write notes and leave them in his briefcase before business trips to Providence or New Haven. He recognized the pen. Blue ink. The fountain pen he'd given her on their 5th anniversary. She'd been dead for 3 years. When had she written this? Bernard broke the seal carefully, unfolding the single sheet inside. The date at the top made his chest cave. 2 weeks before she died. My love, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I've been having headaches again. Dr. Brennan in Stamford says they're migraines, but something feels wrong. I'm writing this just in case. The twins are so young, they'll need someone who loves them, not someone who sees them as obligations or obstacles. Promise me, Bernard. If you remarry, choose someone who sees Lily's creativity and Alvin's gentleness as gifts, not burdens. Don't let anyone erase me from their memories. Let them talk about me. Let them draw me. Let them grieve. I've hidden this letter in Lily's sketchbook because I know you'll find it eventually. She draws me every day. Don't take that away from her. Love them more than your business. Love them more than your pride. Always yours, Eliza. Bernard read it 3 times. Then a 4th. His vision blurred. The words swam. His wife dying, afraid, knowing something was wrong, had written her final wishes and hidden them where she knew they'd matter most. In Lily's drawings, the same drawings Karen had been systematically destroying. Bernard's grief turned to something colder, sharper. Karen had found this letter. She must have. She'd confiscated the sketchbook multiple times, rifled through it, hidden it in the wine cellar. She'd read Eliza's words. Don't let anyone erase me from their memories. And Karen had done exactly that. Deliberately, knowingly. She'd read a dead woman's plea and chosen to desecrate it. This wasn't just cruelty. It was erasure. It was theft. It was the destruction of everything Eliza had begged him to protect. Bernard folded the letter carefully, tucking it into his jacket pocket. His pulse hammered. His hands steadied. He had what he needed now. The recordings, Caitlin's photographs, Jonathan's folder, and this Eliza's final testament, proving that Karen knew exactly what she was doing. But he needed one more thing. A stage. A moment. A public setting where Karen couldn't twist the truth or manipulate the narrative. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She's planning something tomorrow night. Engagement party at the estate. Westport guests. Reporters. You need to be there. Jonathan again. Bernard typed back, "Why are you helping me?" The response came 30 seconds later. "Because I have a conscience. And because she promised me a percentage of your estate if the petition succeeded. I took the deal. Then I met your children." Bernard exhaled slowly. Even Jonathan, Karen's co-conspirator, had been broken by what he'd seen. Another text. "The party starts at 7. She's announcing the wedding date. If you're going to stop her, do it then." Bernard deleted the messages and climbed the back staircase. Caitlin was packing her things in the staff quarters near the east wing. A single duffel bag on the bed. Clothes folded neatly. No anger, no tears, just exhaustion. Bernard knocked softly. She turned, saw him, and her shoulders sagged. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I tried." "You did more than try." Bernard stepped inside, closing the door. "I need your help one more time." She looked at him, really looked at him, and something flickered in her expression. Recognition, confusion. "Who are you?" she asked quietly. Bernard pulled off the work gloves, wiped the dirt from his face with his sleeve, met her eyes. "I'm Bernard Ashford," he said, "and tomorrow night I'm ending this." Caitlin's hand flew to her mouth. Bernard pulled out the letter, the folder, his phone with the recordings. Karen's hosting an engagement party. Reporters. Guests from Greenwich to Hartford. She's going to announce the wedding date in front of everyone. He looked at Caitlin directly. I'm going to announce something else. Footsteps echoed from the hallway. Both of them froze. Karen's voice drifted through the door. Caitlin, are you still here? I need to speak with you about tomorrow night. Bernard stepped into the great room at exactly 7:15. No stubble, no work clothes, clean-shaven, tailored navy suit, Italian leather shoes polished to mirror shine. He looked exactly like the man Karen had said was in Boston. The room fell silent. 60 guests turned. Champagne glasses frozen mid-air. Karen stood near the fireplace in a cream silk gown, microphone in hand, smile locked in place. Behind her, a projection screen displayed photos from their engagement party in Stamford. Her eyes met his across the room. The smile cracked. Bernard, she breathed into the microphone. You're home early. I never left. His voice carried through the silence. He walked forward slowly, deliberately. Guests parted like water. Karen's hand trembled. I don't understand. I've been here the whole time. Bernard stopped 10 feet from her, watching, recording, learning exactly who you are. A woman from Westport whispered to her husband. Karen's publicist near the bar reached for her phone. Karen recovered quickly, forcing a laugh. Darling, you're not making sense. Are you feeling all right? Doctor, Coulter's evaluation says I'm mentally unfit. Bernard pulled a remote from his pocket. The one you paid $20,000 for. The one supporting your petition in New Haven County Superior Court. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen's face drained of color. That's confidential. Bernard clicked the remote. The engagement photos vanished. The screen went black for 3 seconds. Then Lily's face appeared. 8 years old, trembling. Karen's voice cut through the speakers. Put that down, Lily. You don't deserve anything your father buys. The footage played. Caitlin stepping between them. Karen's raised hand. The threat about the sketchbook. Silence swallowed the room. Bernard clicked again. New footage. Karen mocking Alvin's stutter during breakfast in Darien. Karen forcing Lily to stand in the corner. Karen screaming at Caitlin. Click. The patio scene. Karen calling the drawings obsessive, showing the sketchbook to her friends. Click. The door accident. Lily falling. Alvin screaming. Karen's voice cold and flat. She shouldn't have been standing there. Someone in the crowd started crying. Bernard clicked one final time. The screen displayed a scanned image of Eliza's letter. Every word visible, every plea, every instruction Karen had ignored. Don't let anyone erase me from their memories. You read this, Bernard said quietly. His voice shook. You read my wife's dying wish, and you destroyed our children's drawings anyway. Karen's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Bernard pulled the manila folder from inside his jacket. This is your petition to declare me unfit. Your financial records showing payments to fabricate evidence. Testimony from Caitlin documenting 3 years of abuse. Photographs of bruises on my children. He dropped the folder on the floor between them. The engagement is over. The wedding is cancelled. You have 1 hour to leave my property. If you ever contact my children again, I'll file charges for child endangerment in every county from here to Hartford. Karen's knees buckled. 2 women rushed to catch her. Bernard turned toward the doorway. Caitlin stood there, holding Lily and Alvin's hands. The twins stared at their father, confusion, shifting to recognition, shifting to something that looked like hope. Bernard crossed the room in 4 strides and dropped to his knees in front of them. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I should have been here. I should have protected you. Lily's lip trembled. Daddy? He pulled them both into his arms. They collapsed against him, sobbing. 3 years of grief and fear and loneliness pouring out all at once. Behind him, guests ushered Karen toward the door. Cameras flashed. Whispers spread like wildfire through Fairfield County social circles. But Bernard didn't care. He held his children tighter. Alvin pulled back slightly, wiping his eyes. Did you find my drawings?" Bernard reached into his jacket and pulled out the restored sketchbook. Lily gasped. He opened it to the first page. Eliza's face, sketched in crayon and pencil and love. "I found them," Bernard said softly, "and I'm never letting them go again."